Hey, welcome back to episode 41 of the Cellarcast. I'm gonna give you fair warning. I'm a little sleepy. I'm recording this a little later than I would have liked, but I got sidetracked playing some games, and I don't know. I've just been kind of lazy. I did not realize that the last of the month fell on a Thursday, so I was like, oh no, because I couldn't do anything the entire GDC week. For the majority of the week, I was just like, okay, well I'm gonna be doing that all week, and I was fine with it. I'm like, oh, I'll have another week to actually finish the video and all that, and then I was like, let's see, it's Monday. Hang on, and then I looked at the date and I was like, wait. It doesn't look like there's a lot of time for me. Oh god, the 31st is on a Thursday. Shit. Fuck. Because if I don't make if I only make one video a month, my income is slashed in half. So that was fine. Yeah, so I kind of had to grind to get that video out by Thursday, evening. And then, I usually like to upload at the end of the week, on Saturdays, but couldn't do that, so it was like, okay, I guess we're going for Thursday, and it came out. I got it out, guys. We're only one episode away from finishing Die Hard for good, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I look forward to that, and I've kind of just been taking the last few days to just kind of relax and not think about work, which I think is important to not burning out. So yeah, forgive me if I'm a little sleepy, just because it is a little later than I usually am awake for. What am I talking about? Well, usually a little later than I like to record. So I might have to go through the thing that I actually honestly go through every podcast, where I'm kind of in a fog at the start and then my brain gets going. Anyway, let's get on to the comment review. So, first question, comes to us from Gus. He says, you mentioned about applying for jobs when you graduated. I've been there before, until I was finally able to start my own business. My company deals and installs solar panels. Probably older than you think, 30, but I would consider myself really lucky if I could make my work out of my favorite hobby. I really enjoy your content, just keep at it. Your channels will grow beyond your expectations. Well, thank you very much. Sorry, I'm kind of curious now. Please ask questions, it gives me content. What inspired you to make your channels? What gave you this idea of a seller of retro games? So, I don't know if I've ever fully broken down the entire timeline of this thing, but basically, yeah. So I graduated. I was class of 2020, and I was already going to take a gap year between high school and college, and I really didn't want to go to college. So during that gap year, honestly, even if I was planning on going, would have probably been a good idea anyway. That was a tricky, silly time to, from what my friends who did go to college tell me. People were not prepared to suddenly shift to online. So, because mind you, this was pre-vaccine, pre-everything. We didn't even really understand COVID symptoms and all that, and who it affects. It was so up in the air. So chaotic. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to stay home and take a year off and, well, number one, just kind of relax, because, I just done 12 years of school, and maybe I deserve a little sabbatical, So I just stayed home, played games, started writing, did a bunch of stuff. And I was kind of just, I was getting comfortable, and I was like, well, I had this idea for stuff I want to do, because I like making stuff. I like making content. And it was a good opportunity in that now that I had so much free time, I could kind of like really get into and sort of grow my, what would you call it? Pardon me. I don't know, just my experience with games. I had a lot of time to play games, and that's great because I love games and I like playing a lot of different games, so I was just able to enjoy that stuff. And I had this idea for basically some kind of creative outlet for me to share my love of retro games. And so that's how I came up with the idea for the Cellar. So the name, actually, the Cellar, I guess, to answer your second question first. It was kind of, I should just go in order of the way that it happened. So my idea was, it actually started as a blog and an Instagram page. So the idea was that I was going to, every single day, I was going to make a post about a different retro game. So my process was just, I would wake up, I would look for a game on like My Abandonware or something. I would download it, play it for like enough to get like an idea. It was different for every game. Enough to get an idea for what it was. And I would record it, and then if I really liked a piece of music from it or something, I would like make a little montage. And most of the time I just ended up going with doing like screenshots, and then I wrote up a short little summary sort of review type thing of like, hey, this game released this year by published by this company, developed by this studio, some general thoughts on it, and recommend or not recommend. And then I would throw that up onto my blog and the Instagram page, and I did that every day for like 2 months, 3 months, something like that. And to be honest, a WordPress blog is not it's not going to set the world on fire. It's not going to get everyone's attention, but it was fun. But I kind of had like a desire to do a little more. So I started writing articles on my blog, which I really enjoyed. I wrote some stuff that I'm actually very proud of still. I wrote some stuff on like Toho. I wrote an article on Blood. I wrote an article on what else did I write one on? Oh, I wrote one actually that I'm a big fan of, that I still stand by, about why I think Metroidvania is a bad term. Maybe I should devote something to that, like make a video or something about that, or segment on the podcast. And what happened after that? I was just kind of like feeling like I wanted to expand it. I was getting kind of comfortable with it, and I wanted to expand to more stuff. So I figured, hey, I've always kind of wanted to do YouTube, but I've just never had like a super solid idea. So let me try something out. And so the way that the channel started was that I just did streaming, actually. It started off with just like a little challenge, essentially. Pardon me. I challenged myself to do a stream every day in October, and I was going to play a horror game. I was going to play horror games every day in October. So I ended up playing like 4 games. I basically just did like something like 4, maybe 5 playthroughs of games. So I did like Silent Hill. I did Realms of the Haunting. I did what else am I thinking of? I did Blood. Death Wish, the mod for Blood, which I've raved about on this podcast. And actually, that is how I got into making videos, because I was so the first video, like the Cellar episode of the Cellar, was a level design breakdown of a level from Death Wish that was like one of my favorites. And it was just like a beat by beat analysis of the level, which I really enjoyed making. I had a lot of fun making that. And I just kind of kept going because I liked it. And I was like, I think I should expand into making videos and stuff. So I just kind of kept going from there. And you can tell that I was like figuring out what I wanted to do. I kind of did a bunch of stuff here or like different kinds of content. I did kind of like what eventually ended up becoming the rant videos, which became this podcast. I did I did more videos about like game design and stuff like that, and some about history. And so now I've kind of settled into something that I'm I don't know, more of a solid direction of like history, documentaries, comedy thing. That's basically like how it started. It was a blog, and then I just like retro games. I like retro games. I like video games. I like communicating my feelings to people, and I like video editing, and I wanted to do it, and it's fun. I enjoy expressing myself, so I started a blog that turned into a channel with me streaming, and then the stream turned into me making videos, and now we're here. And specifically the Cellar, like the branding, I guess. I came up with all that before I started, and it was basically just like, I don't know, it was just like I was like, okay, well, I want to have some kind of name. I've always actually thought of the Cellar, so like people sometimes call me the Cellar. And it's like, that's fine. I don't like mind that, but I do have like a bit of I'm a little anal about it in just like a stupid, like pretentious artist way, where I'm like, well, actually, the Cellar is the name of the project. I am Taigen. I'm Taigen Moon, and the Cellar is my channel. It's my project. I've always thought of it as like a Taigen Moon project or something like that. Something in that vein, because it's just like I like doing a lot of stuff, right? I'll probably do stuff beyond YouTube. I will hopefully do stuff beyond YouTube in the future, and those will be different Taigen Moon projects that are not the Cellar. So the reason specifically for the Cellar was I just thought it was I wanted something that was something. I wanted a name that kind of evoked the idea. I wanted something like that felt kind of underground and obscure, and also had this element of like the idea was that I was doing stuff on stuff that was maybe more obscure, or that you weren't aware of, right? So, like you're gonna come away from my content learning something. So so like the tagline for the channel is like something you may not have played. That's why it's that, because it's something you may not have played, and that doesn't always extend to literally games. Sometimes it's like just represents like, a story of a developer or a person you've never heard of, or maybe weren't familiar with. And I'm gonna do like a deep dive on it or them. And I just kind of landed on, like, I was thinking, I don't know, like the basement or the the dungeon, and I was like, it's not like it was close, but it wasn't like quite enough, or something like, I wanted something kind of dark and sort of edgy sounding, I guess. I don't know. And eventually I settled on the Cellar, because I was like, oh well, a cellar, if you think about it, a cellar is a place where you keep things, you keep wines, and you let them sit and kind of just like culture. Is that what it's called? No, culture is like when it grows mold. You let them ferment. That's what it is. You let them develop, right? And then you bring them up from the cellar. And I thought, oh well, that's actually a really neat analogy for bringing up. Like there's these things, these stories, these games, and all this stuff that has been tucked away. That, I mean, so many people are unaware of a lot of gaming history and stuff like that. And I love gaming history and obscure stuff. So it's meant to like evoke this imagery of like taking up an aged bottle of wine or something from the cellar, except, you know, it's a story or a game or something like that. So it was just, I was looking for something, like once I settled on it, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. But just because, you know, I wanted something that captured, it kind of started with me thinking about, okay, what's something that, you know, like an obscure, something that has this imagery of, a name that has kind of like imagery of like being obscure, maybe kind of murky or underground, and a cellar's literally underground, right? So it all works out. And then actually, I guess just to completely round out all the choices I made when starting out, is because I've always, I was like, okay, well, if I'm doing a channel or any kind of venture, I'd like to have really strong branding so that people at least, you know, remember my content or something. So I mean, my name is, well, it's technically my real name is Taigen Moon, but Moon is only my middle name. My actual last name is Irigoyen, and so Taigen Irigoyen, I think it's a nice sounding name, but yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, and people don't know how to spell Irigoyen because it's like a weird Basque name. So I was like, okay, well, let me just use my middle name. It's a Taigen Moon, which my mom would call me when I was in trouble. She didn't do some people are like, oh, when your mom calls you by your full name, she wouldn't go like Taigen Moon Irigoyen. She would just go Taigen Moon. And I was like, oh, fuck, what did I do? So I was like, okay, you know, Moon, everyone knows what that is. And it's kind of memorable. I guess I'm so used to Taigen being my name that I'm like, oh, people, it actually literally just occurred to me that people would probably see my name and not know that it's like an actual name and it's like some weird thing I made up. But no, it's really my name. Taigen is a real name. It's a real name, and Moon is part of my legal name. And so it's like, I picked that because it's snappier. So under stuff that I guess you can sort of call it a pen name. Sort of. So like everything, like if I ever get a book published, I'd publish it under the name Taigen Moon because it's catchier, I guess. And more memorable than Taigen Irigoyen. So, yeah, I was like, I need strong branding, and then that part of that, I picked the reason, like my color scheme of my channel is like the DOS VGA, sorry, CGA, the like cyan and magenta, pardon me, and like black and white, that color palette. It's just because I think it looks great, and well, number one, I think it's like really cool looking. I really love how it looks. Like the pink, like magenta, and the light blue is something about it is just so, like, it delicious. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just delicious for my eyes. Two, it's very recognizable, and if you're familiar with old DOS games, it is like you immediately recognize that color palette. Also, I guess it sort of reflects how I'm more of like a PC gamer than a console gamer. And, yeah, it's another thing that I just think it's like, okay, well, this is like some strong branding. I always put my little skull in like the corner of the thumbnails. These are all the little things that I think about to try and make my content have, I don't know, more memorable or something like that. It's these little things, like intentional stylistic choices. And if you notice, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the color scheme for this channel is very similar. However, instead of the magenta, it's orange. And that's because that was the color scheme that this channel uses is one of the other main CGA palettes. It's the, like, basically just swap out the magenta for the orange. And that's one of the other palettes on the CGA, like, DOS chip, whatever. Is it a chip? I don't fucking. Color graphics adapter. Or is it computer graphics adapter? I think it's color. Anyway, yeah, so that's where that came from. That's the origin of the channel. That's the lore. Second question we have comes from Lozy. He says, "Yep, it's sad, the crypto crap, but maybe in the future we will be talking about the seller coin." We'll be talking about Atari coin, baby. 2 times 1. Oh, because it's 2 questions in one. Okay. What other technological/gaming/anime events have you been to? And have you thought about moving the rant and podcast videos to this channel? A couple of channels usually do that, so their non-podcast channel looks a bit cleaner. Edit. I found a weird game for the channel. It's one of those with bad acting and old. It came from the desert for PC Engine /TurboGrafx CD. I did look up it came from the desert. Let's just say I have a lot of ideas, but it's going... That one's added to the drawer for now. I have a big backlog of ideas. What other like con event, those things? Yeah, your first question. What other technological gaming anime events have you been to? My experience is relatively limited. The main ones I've been to is my friends and I always made a point to go to Crunchyroll Expo every year, which is held by the anime streaming site Crunchyroll. And yeah, we went there the first one that they had, like back in 2017 or something. That was a blast. It's always fun. It's a good time. And we went to I've been to there's a convention in the California area called YumeCon, which is held at a little college called Foothill College. And yeah, it's a much like smaller con, but it was fun. It's fun in its own way, because like, yeah, there's no panels or anything, but it just kind of just hanging out with a bunch of other anime weirdos, you know. It's a more like intimate experience, I guess, where you just kind of get to like talk to people, and there's just like, it's just like a fun little social thing where, oh, there's also like, you can buy art and stuff like that, and there's some dude just fucking shrieking karaoke. Someone tell that guy to slow down. Oh, they had a maid cafe. They had a maid cafe there that was really fun. There's a picture of me like JoJo posing. Was it a JoJo pose? It was just, I think I was just posing with the maid who was at our table. She was super nice. Her maid name was Peaches, and we talked about Berserk. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. What other events? Honestly, like, not too many, because like I never leave my house except to like take a walk around the neighborhood. I almost never leave my house, yeah, unless it's taking a walk or going to see Kat. She is the only reason that I like leave like a 10-mile radius from my house. Pretty much. Yeah, I'd like to go to more stuff. Stuff's going to be clearing up. I'd like to start going to some fighting game locals as soon as I get enough money for that dangle hitbox. Or maybe if I... Or actually, more just when there's always like a shortage on the like enclosures. The metal enclosures are always sold out. I could just make it with like a cardboard box or something, but I don't know. I want like I want to do it once and like just do it nicely. Second question. Have you thought about moving the rant and podcast videos to this channel? I have. My biggest, like, it's true, like when you look at the main channel, it's like, oh, it's a lot of fucking podcasts. My only thing is like, if I did it here, it would like fucking bombard my subscribers with just re-uploads of shit. I guess technically if like I made all the original ones private too, it would also take away some views, but I'm pretty sure I have like individual videos on the channel that in total have more views than like all of the podcasts combined, so maybe it wouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, actually let me know if you guys would be okay with like a day where you just got like 34 episodes of the podcast in your sub box, because also I feel like that's kind of annoying. There isn't, as far as I know. I wish there was a way to just move videos over to another channel. I mean, like if I look, let me go. Okay, let me just the last podcast I uploaded before I just moved over. Number, was it 33? Yeah, it was number 33. Is there, there's like no way to move stuff over. Yeah, it's just like, and it's kind of annoying because it's like, YouTube actually made it quite easy to just add a channel, like a new channel for your account. You don't have to make like a whole other email, which you used to have to do. Because your Google account was just your YouTube account. So they finally added that ability. So that made like making this channel pretty painless, all things considered. But I wish there was a way to like literally just move a video over. Like it's already on the server. I get maybe you have to change some, maybe that's impossible with the way that like the metadata works, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you guys would be okay with just randomly getting 33 episodes of a podcast in your subscription feed. I'd probably upload them like upload them all like privately and then like just make them public at once. Maybe I could like dole them out like once per day. Maybe that would make it more painless. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about it. Anyway, I've been doing this long enough. Let's talk about something that happened this week. So, I thought it would be funny if instead of texting my girlfriend about things, I just talk about it in podcast form, and then that way I can check whether or not she's actually listening to the podcast. It's kind of like an extremely like YouTuber way to manipulate your significant other. So, a prototype for an unreleased, unannounced Gex spin-off titled Gex Jr has just been leaked online. That's right, babe. Text me about it. Oh no, you're listening to this when you text me about it, because you're going to be like, there's a Gex prototype, Gex Jr. Yeah, there is. So, yeah, apparently in so there was a prototype that just got leaked online, and it's like, hey, there was going to be a spin-off/sequel for Gex, and it was called Gex Jr. And it was like Gex, but he's like a kid. He's like a baby gecko, and he is wearing a little candy cane stripy shirt, and he has a backwards baseball cap. In 2001, which is very topical and cool, and it's going to be a hit with the kids. So this was supposed to be for the PS1? That's crazy. Oh, so yeah, man, this was like the last year. This might have been scrapped because of the PS2 coming out, honestly. Like, maybe it was just like, it's gonna take too long to make this game. PS1's on the way out. Let's just focus on other stuff. So it's just a demo, too. let's read some notes on Hidden Palace. This prototype contains only one short playable level and repeats it every time you finish it. There's a video of it that I watched. It is, it's like 30, yeah, it's literally 30 seconds, and it's just Gex Jr. walking through a kind of neat looking little level that's like kind of TV studio themed, and then he's done. The level has a few soda cans that Gex Jr. can collect. Collecting one plays a gulping sound. Yeah, it's pretty funny because it's but it doesn't show how many soda cans you've collected since the HUD doesn't exist. Yeah, it's it's literally just controls. You can control the character and there's a little environment. Gex Jr.'s voice lines, because there are voice lines. They're not going to do a UI, but you are hell will fucking freeze over before they make a Gex prototype that does not have 100 pop culture references in it with fully like voiced like voice lines. So references to Teletubbies, Blue's Clues, Star Wars, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Yeah, there's like a model viewer which apparently just cycles through Gex Jr.'s animations. Yeah. It's just kind of interesting. I guess that they were probably toying around with this idea. My bet right now is just that it was like a timing thing. Kind of like how, wait, am I thinking? It kind of reminds me of how, like, when Final Fantasy IV... No, hang on. So, like, Final Fantasy I came out outside of Japan, and then 2 and 3 didn't get localized for forever, and when it finally came time that... no, wait, Final Fantasy I came out, like, kind of late in the US, like in the NES's life cycle, right? When did FF1 US release? When did it come out? Initial release date was December 87. When did it come out in America? Was it also 87? Really? Okay. Published it in 1990. Okay, yeah. So it was way late. So by the time that FF1 did really well, or actually it did well enough, at least according to this. Apparently, this Wikipedia article says it did modest success. So it did well enough that they were like, oh, we can then bring the other games over, and then they looked at it and they were like, oh, but the SNES is coming out like really soon, so let's localize. Let's not do the Super Nintendo version, or sorry, let's not do the two other games that were on the NES. Let's grab the new fancy Final Fantasy IV, localize that one, and we'll just call it Final Fantasy II to avoid confusion, which of course caused more confusion in the long run. It's kind of fun. Thank God they didn't call it Super Final Fantasy. That would have been that would have been worse. Would that have been worse than like mixing up the numbers? Yeah, so 2 and 3 never came out in the US officially until like they got remakes on the DS and stuff, and I think there was a collection on the PSP. It's not till way later, basically. So I feel like this is my bet is that this Gex prototype is probably a similar thing where they were like, okay, let's just hold off and not bother making like a PS1 game right after, because it's only going to come out like really close to or after the PS2 with it. Like, there's no point. Pardon me. Apparently there is a fart command. You press triangle to fart. Yeah. In other news... Oh, what's that sound? What's that sound? That's right, guys. It's the Blizzard block. So, there's some news. So this one comes to us from Kotaku, courtesy of CC Zhang, I think. That's how you pronounce it. Jiang. Activision Blizzard settles sexual harassment lawsuit for $18 million. This was the EEOC lawsuit. That's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which I think was the third lawsuit. So this might sound like good news, maybe. I mean, we're so used to settlements that it's like not even a shame anymore. But it's actually... I'm going to have to take a call. Alright, what was I talking about? Right, okay. So this might seem like somewhat of a win, but it's a little more complicated than that. So apparently, okay, let me just read from the article. So during the settlement hearing, a lawyer acting on behalf of the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, the DFEH, which was the department that did the initial investigation and the initial lawsuit, argued that the EEOC's motion to proceed with the settlement was in violation of states' rights to its own jurisdiction. I'm sure this sounds so whack to non-Americans. He stated that the EEOC's intervention was due to the egregiousness of Activision Blizzard's violation and not due to normal legal process. So basically they're saying it's out of the ordinary. So, okay, so the DFEH, so the state of California is basically saying that they have dibs on railing Activision Blizzard, and the federal government is coming in and they're trying to get a piece of that. And they're saying that's our right. And you're only doing this not because of a regular legal process. This is not typical. You're only doing it for some reason. I don't know why. The egregiousness of it, because it was so bad, I guess. The EEOC argued that the DFEH has had months to make the federalism argument. A federalism argument is just the states' rights argument, basically. But has instead chosen to broach it at the 11th hour. So I guess this is actually, like, pretty recent? So the DFEH was accused of derailing and delaying the settlement proceedings, while Activision Blizzard was cooperative with the federal government. The exasperated judge reiterated that the DFEH's argument was, quote, untimely, and that anyone who disagreed with the settlement could take it to the Ninth Circuit Court. According to the Washington Post, the settlement... So this is where it gets interesting, because you're like, why... Okay, why are they being, like, petty about this? Like, what's the deal? You know, the more we can rail Activision, the better, right? So according to the Washington Post, the settlement could prevent the DFEH, which is also pursuing legal action against ActiBliz, from seeking further monetary damages. This means the settlement could be a loss for both the DFEH's case and sexual harassment victims of the company, because state agency has historically been more aggressive than federal proceedings, like that of the EEOC. So basically what they're saying is, apparently there is something in this other suit from the federal government that could hurt the DFEH's case, that could make them not be able to pursue the most, like, not go as hard as they want to, essentially. Because states, in these cases, states are usually a lot more, in their words, aggressive than the federal government. So the DFEH is pursuing its own lawsuit against... Okay, the organization claimed the EEOC settlement contains a clause that allows Activision Blizzard, and this is crazy, to remove sexual harassment allegations from the files of settlement claimants, hindering the DFEH trial. The EEOC's opposition, which was filed March 24th, disputes this, saying the consent decree does not require or authorize the destruction of these documents. The settlement also allows the publisher to use unclaimed funds for its own women's charity funds. DFEH is wary that control over some of the money could return to the company that the settlement is meant to punish. So there's some funky things going on here with basically the California government is saying that the federal government is, you're putting in a clause to your suit that says that all of the people who pay out for the federal lawsuit, all the people who have to pay out, are able to basically they basically get their records cleaned up, where they don't have to have their sexual harassment allegations on their records. Which, of course, would make the state's lawsuit more difficult, and because they wouldn't be able to press, because this person has been basically legally absolved of their crime, and they're saying, no, that means that we can't push them harder for more money. The settlement, so EEOC says that they disputes the consent decree does not require or authorize the destruction of these documents. I'm not super sure what that means, if I'm going to be 100% honest. Pardon me. Which was, okay, disputes this, saying the consent decree does not require or authorize the destruction of these documents. I guess they're saying that it doesn't necessarily, it's not require or authorize the destruction. Or authorize seems like the more. So it doesn't require them to. They're saying, I guess it's a lie? I don't know. The settlement also allows the publisher to use unclaimed funds. So yeah, then basically any funds that are not claimed. Again, I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not sure how funds go unclaimed. But ActiBliz can then take it for women's charity funds, which I'm sure, for their own women's charity funds, which I'm sure would never be used to cycle money back into the company. I'm sure it would never happen. The original proceedings were held up by the DFEH, which filed a motion to intervene last October. How did I miss that? However, that October filing allowed the EEOC to respond with its own opposition, which claimed the DFEH lawyers were under ethical violations. Dude, it's a war in the courtroom. Everybody wants a piece of that ass. This is like a legal gangbang. Everyone's just Activision Blizzard's in the middle, just ethical violations. I don't know. Okay. Last October, the Communications Workers of America also filed an objection against the then possible settlement with the EEOC. In the labor union's view, $18 million is a drop in the bucket for Activision Blizzard. So that's $450 per claimant. Yeah, that's. So, like, these settlements, one of the reasons that they tend, if it's one of these big, like, a lot of people were affected, $18 million split across, let's see, $450 per claimant. So how does the math work out on that? How many claimants are there? 18, oops, 18, that's 18 million divided by 450. So there's 40,000 people. Holy shit, did I do that math right? Did I do that right? 18 million. Yeah, that's 18 million. Okay, yeah. So 450 per claimant. So that's, yeah, so it's 40,000. 40,000 claimant? What the fuck? Is that real? It's a lot of people. Really? Anyway, yeah, it usually ends up being like, once you actually divide it across a bunch of people, it doesn't end up being a lot per person. That's like, if you were to take all the, like everyone who exists in like the 1% of America, and then you were to just like divide all of their wealth to everyone would get maybe like $300 or something like that. Maybe it's like pocket change, essentially. It's like a week's work. And Yeah, that's one of the unfortunate things about these settlements. So they wanted to go way harder. Now there is like weird. Okay, so you're like, well, why did the federal government even get involved in this? And why are they being so much softer on them? I don't know. However, it has come up a few times of Activision Blizzard's weird ties to the government. And now I'm not saying anything. And in fact, I think it even might even be. I mean, we're under an entirely different administration now. I'm pretty sure a lot of people get replaced every time there's a new president. So I have no clue if all the people who were connected to like Bush and Trump that now work in at ActiBliz have anything to do with the government. But I don't know. You could probably come up with a conspiracy about that. Yeah. So everyone's ganging up on him. That's kind of that's the story so far. I'm curious. This is so weird. It feels like there's so many people dueling over these lawsuits. Yeah, and it's also a shame that settlements are just the common thing. Like, yeah, I remember there was this story. There was this story like when Elon Musk was doing SpaceX, and he parked his car illegally because there wasn't a parking lot or something that was convenient for him. So he just parked his car illegally, and over the course of like a year or something, he racked up like $10,000 in parking tickets or something like that, and it meant nothing to him. It meant literally nothing to him. He makes that amount of money in like less than a day. I don't know. He makes a lot of money. That's like, $10,000 over the course of a year is like fucking nothing for him. So like, and what if his car gets towed? He makes cars. He could just make one for himself. He's probably got 100 cars. He could probably just walk into the Tesla garage and just probably what he drives anyway. He just like it doesn't matter to him. So it's like, yeah, there's a quote from like Final Fantasy Tactics or something. It's like, it's like goes something along the lines of like, a crime whose punishment is a fine is only a crime for the poor or something like that. It's like, yeah, it's just a part of, I don't know, it reminds me of like a broken system in a game where it's like you're not the disincentive mechanic is not enough. It's like when you don't get enough punishment for like bashing your head into a wall or something like that to like solve problems. It's like a brain dead strat. It's like an overtuned character in a game where it's like you can just kind of smash your face into the keyboard and win. It's like, yeah, maybe the penalties should be a little more significant for this character for doing stupid shit. Yeah. Anyway, E3 is canceled. The whole thing. They were just gonna do digital, I think, and now they're just gone. It's not happening. And I've never been to E3. I know a lot of people are bummed about this, especially like people who've been there every year and all that, but I am kind of bummed. I can only talk about how I experience E3, which is through the memes. E3 was always like, now right, I'm not the trendiest person even in games. So a lot of announcements and reveals that happen at E3 aren't of too much interest to me, to be honest. So like, what is fun about E3 for me is just like the community aspect of it. Gaming is a really interesting industry / like community thing. I don't know how to describe it. Because I can't think of another industry where fans are so engaged with with the industry, like even somewhat casual fans, right? Like maybe the guy who just buys a FIFA every year, buys the Madden every year, he's probably not up on it. But how many industries can you say where you like know the names of executives? Like, do you know who the president of or CEO of Disney is right now? I don't know. Who is the CEO of Disney? Bob Chapek? Since 2020. He's been, Chicago born and raised. Was the previous one Bob Iger? When was he the, yeah, okay. So before that it was Bob Iger. But now it's Bob Chap. They just love their Bobs. Bob Chapek. Chapek? I don't know how to pronounce that. Yeah, it's like, but you don't know his name, but you know, Todd Howard, right? I don't know. Let's go with a better example. Do you know who the CEO of Cinemark is? No. No, you don't. Cinemark CEO. Sean Gamble. Wait, he just started this year. Okay. Sean Gamble. That's a cool name. The CEO of Cinemark. But you know who Jim Ryan? Yeah. There's so many. Yeah, you know who Jim Ryan is. The fucking Sony guy. Sony of America. Or no, wait, it's just CEO of PlayStation in general. Sony Interactive. Yeah, it's just Jim Ryan. Like, you know who he is. Like, you know his name, even if I can't remember exactly which position he is. You know his name. You know Jim Ryan. You know, people know, like, Iwata and Miyamoto and, like, these guys. I mean, yeah, I guess Miyamoto's, like, a creator and all that, so. So, like, you know who Phil Spencer is? You know who these people are. Like, people who make, like, the distribution. You know who Bobby Kotick is. We talk about Bobby Kotick all the time. Do you know who, like, the president of, like, Sony's movie division is? No. But you know who the president of their, like, games division is? It's like, I've never seen, there's no industry where the fans are so dialed into, like, the people who run it. And they're so, like, that's the other thing, it's like, okay, you know, people who are really into, even people who are, like, really into film are, you know, what kinds of positions, for instance, do they know, right? Like, director, screenwriter, maybe like a producer or something. And of course actors, right? But like with games, it's like anyone who is on a development team is like, there's like this closeness with their audience that is unlike any other like thing. I guess composers for film too. Unlike any other thing. Like, how many famous editors are there? There's none. There's no famous film editors. Even though it's like one of the most important jobs in the process. Unless you don't really know these things unless you're a super film buff. But like there's people who are like, oh yeah, this guy, this person who are on like the development team for this game they're into. Yeah, I know all of them. As opposed to just like, oh, the main lead and maybe the composer and maybe like a few other people. It's like, no, you're like, oh, you know who all these people are. Not all of them per se, but like, you know, social media. A lot of them have like social media presences where they talk about, you know, their jobs and stuff like that. And there's just, I don't, the industry, the gaming industry is so much closer to its audience than I think any other industry, and it's really interesting. And I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's just because it started out as such like a garage kind of hobby, sort of, or like really swiftly. It started out with like, games kind of started out being done by very small teams of people, and you had to like mail, if you wanted, like for a PC game for instance, you had to like mail someone some money and they would send it to you in like a floppy disk that was, they would send like a letter to you and had like a floppy disk inside of a little plastic bag. Like a sandwich bag, and then you would, you know, take that out and that's your game. And I guess it just always kept that kind of like open communication. It's also a much more collaborative thing in terms of like the product to the consumer, because like there's so much feedback with games now that we have we're in like a patch culture, essentially a patching era of games. That's like, they listen to their audience and they fix things, or they change things, or they add things. And it's interesting, and you kind of see that on display, where it feels like a lot of people who are interested in E3 are like much more like common, I don't know, the common gamer. As opposed to just the hardcore people who are really into the industry. And that's reflected in like all the memes that come out of it. It's also like, I think that also like E3 used to be just a bunch of press conferences for press. They'd come up and, you know, this person would give a little presentation, and they'd have a slideshow or something, and they would say, here's our thing, here's a video, pardon me, here's like maybe a little trailer, and that's it. And then with the internet age and everything being live streamed, stuff started getting stepped up. We're like, oh, now it's like a marketing event too. So it started getting blown up into like, oh, now we're not just we're not just like spewing information out for a bunch of journalists so that they can report on it. We're also like marketing / performing for an audience that is our audience, for our actual audience that we're reaching out to. So you just get this funny, weird crossroads of different types of like different intents with what the show is supposed to be. Where it's like, okay, we're announcing products and business plans and things like that, and prices and all this stuff. But then also it's like, hey, here's Snoop Dogg playing Battlefield, and he's just smoking a blunt with Zac Efron and Jamie Foxx. And you're like, This is our industry. This is the industry, guys. That stuff's great. It's like classic. It's very, I don't know, it's very unique amongst every entertainment industry. And it's kind of a bummer that we're not going to be able to get it this year, and maybe not next year. I don't know. I mean, you know, in-person events are going to start coming back. They will. We're going to get over... God, I mean, COVID can't last more than another year, right? Unless something crazy happens. I hope I didn't just jinx it. So... I'm expecting it to come back. It's just like... Will E3 be back? Who knows? Companies have now been doing like... It also kind of, it hurts it that it's not the only game in town, or the only show in town, I guess. Because, Nintendo's been doing their Nintendo Directs, so they don't have to go to E3. Sony's been doing their Sony like state of plays. Microsoft's, well, they still do E3, I think. And it's gotten a little more like independent and like segmented. It's not like, oh well, everyone has to show up here. I mean, like the origin of the only reason that it got to this point in the first place is because everyone had to be in one place so that all of the journalists could travel there and actually report on stuff. Because you're not going to have like 10 different events going on in person in like a pre-internet or super early primitive internet era where information doesn't travel as fast, and you're like, what are you going to send? Like, how many flights are you going to book for all these different events and stuff? So it was just like a necessity of the options that were available to them at the time. Like, if we're going to do announcements, we kind of have to do it all together, so that it's a cohesive, like a holistic press event. Like a cooperation between them and magazines and stuff like that. But now in the internet era, it's a lot easier to just make your own show and have everything exclusively for that. And in a way, it's kind of better for the consumer because they don't have to put up with hours and hours and hours of stuff that they don't care about if they just want to see PlayStation stuff or they just want to see Nintendo stuff. Pardon me. Yeah, so I'm curious to see what will happen next. I have a feeling that something is going to come back physically. I think like physical shows are a good way to like build high. I think it's also just like a community thing. E3 might shift towards being more of a community event, like it kind of has been already when they started like selling tickets to any Joe Schmo. Who knows? It's a bit of a bummer in that sense, at least right now, that it's canceled. We're still going to get all the events, or all the announcements and stuff, but it also kind of hurts like sometimes like smaller indie developers or smaller developers that these companies have like partnered with, because it's like they got like a plot. Like, you remember that Yarny game? That game with Yarny? People were going gaga on social media for like 2 days because of that just really friendly man who had his little yarn guy from his little Yarny game. And Unraveled, that's what it was called. And he just seems so sweet. And like without that opportunity to just show up on the stage at E3, who knows, Who knows what might have happened. Right, so I want to touch really quickly on something kind of nice. So Capcom is raising its employees' base salaries by 30% in Japan. Very cool, Capcom. So this one comes from Video Games Chronicle, courtesy of Tom Ivan. Capcom has announced plans to raise Japanese salaries as part of wider changes to its human resources operations ahead of an expected 5th consecutive year of record profits. Like, yeah, Capcom's coming back. They've been back, honestly, for the last few years. So 5th consecutive years of they're breaking their own records every single year. So from the beginning of its 2022 fiscal year on April 1st, so already, employees' average base salaries will increase by 30%, and a new bonus system more closely tied to the company's business performance will be introduced. So I guess as long as Capcom's doing well, as they have, the employees will be doing better. They'll be getting better bonuses. Okay, great. Well deserved. They've been putting in the work, just pumping out bangers for the last couple of years. Capcom's back, guys. They just have to get the fighting game division in shape. It's the only one. Please. And hey, speaking of, There was some fighting game stuff. We've officially broken into the fighting game portion of the podcast. But there was a shocking amount of updates for different fighting games. As in, there were 2 that I played. Number 1, Testament came out. Good old Testy. Got a chance to sit down, have a sesh, some training modes, some online, try them out. And wow, this character is really fun. This character is really enjoyable. I'm having a good time with them. I think Arxis did a fantastic... I'll say fantastic. I'll go that far. I think they did a fantastic job designing a character that is really easy to pick up, but has a lot of stuff to discover. Because you look at their moveset, and it's like, oh, it's much smaller than it was in Plus R. Testament got a complete rework. It's much smaller than in previous games, but it's so flexible. It can be used in so many cool ways. I love the teleporting. Testament's whole thing was basically like, okay, so in the old games, what they did was they threw a bunch of shit on screen and you had to deal with it. And everything was like a trap. Everything was an invisible trap, or it was assaulting you, and you just had to block and hold it and try to make your way in. And it was or just defend in general. They also had that's a different, okay, hang on, let me, okay. On top of having just really good moves in general. New Testament's basically been, Arxis took some of the ideas from the original, from the Old Testament, and they kind of, streamlined it a little bit, or condensed it. So essentially, Testament is still a people used to call Testament a trap character. And that's sort of true because they do set traps, but more so it was just, Testament was good at several things. Number 1 was just screen control with the aforementioned invisible traps. But also, what made Testament so scary was the insane amount of pressure that they could put on you, again, by having 3 or 4 things attacking you at once independently. The New Testament basically the New Testament the New Testament basically has the same idea. They're a character with effective screen control. The traps have been mostly taken out. They've kind of been condensed. A lot of things were condensed into the new Gravedigger ability. That's the one where you throw the bloody skull out and it leaves behind the little succubus in the heart. A lot of things have kind of been condensed into that move, or a lot of gameplay ideas. So whereas before it was okay, Testament gets pressure by planting traps and then forcing you to approach / using really big normals, and then pressures you with Skull, which puts the curse on you and makes a bunch of shit attack you, and EXE beasts that are going in front of and behind you, and what else? What the fuck else do they have? A counter that also teleported and poisoned you. A counter that made them teleport to you and also poison you. All this shit, so that even attacking Testament was dicey, and all this stuff. That was how they laid pressure on, was they would get one hit, they'd hit you with the skull, and then, you gotta hold this for the next 30 fucking seconds. It's like you're playing Skullgirls with the infinite block strings. That's that's basically been turned into, you throw out Gravedigger and it leaves the heart, and then you do like you use those big ass normals that you've still got. It's got some huge ass normals, and you use the little heart that's left behind to either send the crow to attack the opponent, or to it sends the crow to the heart, and or you can teleport to it, and you can do a bunch of funny shenanigans with teleporting, throwing a projectile, then teleporting to the heart it leaves behind. And so when you hit someone with the crow, it puts this, it's called the stain state on them. And so once you hit someone in stain who has stain state on them, it only lasts for like a few seconds. But if you hit someone with stain on them, even if they block it, it does like, it kind of like pops, it procs, to use like a League term or a MOBA term. It procs essentially, and you get a little like, it does like an extra hit essentially of damage, which they also have to block if they were blocking. So if Testament gets a hit when they have stain state on them, on the opponent, you get like a free combo. You get like, because it pops you into the air. It pops the opponent into the air when if it triggers. So you get like a free combo, and the character hasn't been like fully like understood or realized yet, but the pressure you can lay down is really insane and really cool looking, because you're basically just doing like normals into Gravedigger and then some kind of either teleport mix-up or sending out the bird. And as when they have stain state on them, they have to be like extra careful, because if they get hit, they're going to eat a whole combo. But even if they block, if they block a move, like, okay, so if Testament forces you to block like a normal or something, they're probably going to route that into another Gravedigger. They're just going to end the combo in Gravedigger again, or the block string in Gravedigger, and then just send the bird back at you, and then just reapply stain state, and you just have to hold block because the stain state pops, and you just gotta block it. Am I explaining this correctly? Testament can set up these situations where they can continuously reapply stain state and keep a lot of pressure, and it forces the opponent to play cautiously unless they until the stain state goes away after a few seconds. So like they have to be careful for like the 3 or 4 seconds that it's active. What else? I don't know. The character's really fun. Big ass normals, which I like a lot. I was expecting to. I was like, maybe they're a little slow, but I actually don't mind that too much. I've played a lot of other like slow characters. I really like teleporting around. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I really like teleporting around. Just like I love characters with cool big normals and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with just how much of the screen you can cover by hitting slash. Also, one of the first things I checked when I jumped into training mode was if they changed 6P. So if you don't know, in Plus R, Testament's 6P is insane. It's a fucking 17 frame overhead with upper body invincibility. Fucking, but why is it so, what? It's like one of the best 6Ps in the game. I don't know why it has to be an overhead. 17 frames, which is unreactable, by the way. 17 frames. You just have to anticipate it. So, like, mind you, when I talk about Testament forcing you to block because there's, like, a million things attacking you at once, yeah, they just have... Yeah, they can hit you with, like, a low or something, but they can also alternate that with a super fast, unreactable overhead. Most overheads in, like, 2D fighters, including Guilty Gear, tend to be very slow and reactable. The idea is that lows... Because of the way that blocking works, Lows tend to be faster because you default to crouch blocking in most like 2D fighting games. And you crouch block until your opponent jumps, or they do an overhead. Because overheads tend to be slower and more reactable, because crouch blocking is the default, basically. So, like, for instance, Anji, here's a good example. People are like, how do I counter Fujin? That was kind of like tripping people up when they first got into the game. Because maybe they had played Xrd, or it was their first Guilty Gear. They were like, okay, how do I deal with Anji's different follow-ups? Because he has the low, he has the overhead, and then he has the hop, which he's just gonna like hop towards you and then throw you from close range. And the answer, basically, like for every version of Anji in every game, is that you default. You don't even have to think about it. You autopilot as soon as you have to block Fujin. You just crouch block, which means that you are. Pardon me. Bless me. I burped. You're gonna block his low, the low follow up, which is the fastest one. And then so you have that covered. You don't even have to think about that. You just crouch block. And then basically you only have to you break it down into you're only watching for two things. If he does the hop, he is going to throw you. So you just like jab or throw break or something like that. Or if he does the overhead, it's slow and you can just block it. Or sometimes if you're fast enough and you have a quick enough, like maybe like a 2P or something, like a quick jab, you can actually like punch him out of it. So that's like how you. That's generally like that's a pretty balanced way to design a move, even if Anji players just spam Fujin all day. It's a pretty balanced way to, like, you can see why it's designed like that. And then you can look at Testament and it's like, yeah, 17 frame overhead, completely unreactable, and the upper portion of their body is invulnerable during the animation. Thanks, guys. Really cool. So one of the first things I checked was, did they change the 6P? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I laughed when I saw it because I was like, okay, we can't do that anymore. Society has progressed past 17 frame overheads. However, Testament's new 6P is godly. What a great button. They just stick out. So the arm, I really like. So not a lot of Testament's new animations incorporate kind of the older Testament's visuals. So like, for instance, Old Testament had a couple different like animations where like they would either like turn into blood or like portions of their body. Like I think the old 2H or something like that. They would like teleport they would like get on their knees and like teleport forward, and their arms would turn into this like weird like gush of blood, and then it would like morph back into arms as they stood up. And that was always like a cool, like, I don't know, a visual thing throughout a lot of Testament's animations. It's like, oh, they're literally like morphing with this weird, like, I guess it's blood, but it's probably got some weird magical gear stuff going on. And then it sort of came back in Strive, where it's like they made it very clear that like the scythe is made of blood, and the blade of the scythe is made of blood, and the effects, oh dude, the effects are, the visuals are so badass. I fucking love the way that all the blood effects look, and everything that uses the scythe, because it's just like this super bright, like goopy liquid. It's really neat looking. It doesn't even really look like blood. Like, you get that's kind of what it's supposed to be, but it's just this really cool looking, and it's also the fact that like there's no shading around it. So like most characters have some kind of like an outline or something, or that like to distinguish them from the background. But all the blood effects are just kind of like no outline essentially. So they have this cool way of kind of like, I don't know, they look cool on the backgrounds and on the stages. Uh, yeah, so the new 6P is great. They just stick their arm out, and it morphs into like a big like blood geyser, and it stays out like at a really good angle. Like, and it's a big ass hitbox too. Good move. I'm a big fan of that move. So yeah, I don't know. Fun ass character. They have Relius's super, the meme super. Relius has that one super in BlazBlue where he just commands the doll to like just attack a bunch, like move forward and just swipe, attack, and test. That's like a great. It's just like a pressure super. Testament has like the same one where they send the succubi out. I've been calling it the suck super, because I can't remember what the name is, so I just call it the suck super, because, I mean, you put it out and they get sucked, dude, by those succubi, because they do their little twirly dance forward through the air, and it applies stain. What a great move. Yeah, I love just someone whiffs a button and I'm like, time for the suck super. Now you gotta deal with my approach. Bop, 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 bop. Really fun to use. I've anti-aired a few people with the other super, Calamity 1, that just calls up like the big EXE beast from the ground, which I think was one of the things that Testament could do, like EX Testament could do in Plus R. Yeah. Yeah, Testament, hella fun. Also got a chance to mess around with the Street Fighter V Definitive Update. And so like when the trailer came out, so like the Definitive Update, they were kind of marketing it as like, whoa, it's our fuck it version, guys. And I'm like, dude, my favorite fighting game is Plus R. That's just the fuck it version of Guilty Gear XX. This should be awesome. The trailer comes out and they're showing off all these new combo routes for different characters, and it looks badass. And I'm like, whoa, they're really expanding like combo opportunities and combo routes for a bunch of different characters. That'll be awesome, because I play Nash, and Nash's biggest problem is that his ability to convert sucks ass. This is really interesting. This is actually a really interesting point when talking about fighting game balance, because a really underrated aspect of what makes characters good is their ability to just convert things into combos. Basically get to their win condition, you can think of it as. Basically that. So like if you watch Lord Knight, for instance, this is something he talks about a lot, is conversion ability, and he stresses it a lot. So much so that he makes fun of himself when he brings it up, because he brings it up so often. But it's really important, and I'll tell you exactly why. You can actually there's actually a really good, very simple comparison to be made with Third Strike Chun-Li versus 12, because Chun-Li is a character who has decent, like, good neutral and amazing damage, but the important thing is that she can convert her good neutral into her damage. 12 is a character who has good neutral and no damage, and also no conversions. Nash, so even when he's just fucked. 12 is just bonked. The problem with Nash is that when you look at him on paper, he actually has a lot of things that are really good. Like, his buttons are amazing. A forward medium kick, that button's godly. I love that move, the jumping Sobot. Back medium kick's an amazing pressure tool, just an up-close knee. His low heavy punch is really good at range, because it's like -2, and so when spaced out, it's like unpunishable. What else is really good? Crouching medium kick's a good poke. He has multiple good anti-airs. So like he has a lot of a lot of his normals are really good. And then his combos are very good too. They do good damage, and many of them end in a hard knockdown. So that's cool. He has access to like decent projectiles. He can throw 2 sonic booms with like the EX version. It's he has a lot of things that are actually quite good. He has good buttons and he has good combos. So what's the problem? The problem is that there is no connective tissue between those two good elements. Nash, the thing that's killed Nash in the game is that, like for in Street Fighter V for the last few seasons, is that his conversion ability, his ability to actually to land those pokes and turn them into his good combos is like it was really bad. Like, okay, yeah, forward medium kick and crouching medium kick, those moves are great. They're great pokes and counter pokes. But when you land them, that's it. That's just kind of it. You might be able to do like a V-trigger cancel, but like that's a lot. That's a lot of resource to be spending for something that most other characters don't have an issue with. Of like converting a poke into any kind of combo. Like, you know, when you tap someone with low medium kick, it's like, well, that's just it. That's the hit. When you hit someone with jumping Sobot, that's it. It was cool. It feels good. It's fun to do, but that's where it ends. So in order to get his good combos, or really just any of his combos, he basically has to rely on very close starters, like his jabs, his medium punches, because everything is basically routed through his, like... I'm trying to even think of what normals he has that are special cancelable. Is it just standing medium punch? I legitimately don't know. Is it the only one? I have to double check this because I've never thought of it. Hang on. Super combo. There's no way that's his only one, right? There's no way he can be that limited. Okay, now standing light punch. Standing heavy punch? Standing light kick. Medium light. No. Not medium kick. Okay. So yeah, when you look at... Okay, so all of his special cancelable normals are just close buttons, like his jabs, his medium punches, his heavy punch, his light kick. Like, these are all like really close buttons, and all of his like pokes with the good hitboxes, you just can't do anything out of them. So he has like no conversion ability at all unless he's up close, which means that he just inherently has to risk more than other characters to get what other characters get for much easier, basically. Nash has to risk much more to get the same reward. And that's always been that's his struggle. When I saw that they were opening up combo routes, I was like, oh my god, is Nash... Oh my god, if he could get like, I don't know, like a excuse me. If he could, I don't know, man, because his I'd be fine if his combos were worse. I'd be fine if some, well, I'd prefer if his normals were good, but I'd be fine with his combos being less good if he was just able to convert them from his good pokes. That would be cool. That would be fine. Maybe open up some route, like smaller opportunities for him to get like smaller, less intense, like less damaging routes from his pokes, and keep the good combos for the up close confirms and stuff like that. You know, anything. So then the patch notes come out, and I look at it, and I am horribly disappointed. Ugh, okay. Let me... Do I still have it up? No, I closed it. Let me just really quickly... Yeah, Nash adjustments. Standing heavy punch. Increased knockback time on mid-air crush counter. So when you get a crush counter on an opponent who's jumping with standing heavy punch, you can more easily get a combo out of it. Thank you, Capcom. You might be thinking, oh, well, standing heavy punch has to be one of his anti-air. No, Nash has like 3 or maybe even 4 moves that are anti-airs that are you would use well before standing heavy punch. And also an aerial counter hits, like, those don't happen that often, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know, it's just, like, why? Like, you never... This is such a niche situation that they're buffing him for. They nerfed Jumping Sobot. Thank you. That was the only... It was really... He was just too strong, guys. He was just too strong. He was crushing online. You had to nerf Jumping So. I got it was a really good move, but, like, come on. He got a new target combo, which was actually just an old target combo, but they took out the first move. It's okay, because it lets you punish stuff now. That's fine. The actually big thing is that he can now... Here's his new combo routes, guys. Here's his new combo routes. So he has that move Sonic Scythe. That's his big, like, crescent kick move. It's basically like his version of Guile's flash kick, which is called Sonic Scythe. If you buff yourself with V-Skill 2, Nash's kick-based normals can now cancel into EX Sonic Scythe. Is this like a joke? Is this a prank? Why is it so specific? Why is it so specific? Okay, so his V-Skill 2 is the one that buffs up his Sonic Scythes. All versions of his Sonic Scythe to do like an extra hit of damage, basically. Why? What? So, oh my god. So you need the setup of having V-Skill 2 buffed up. Okay, fine. That's not super difficult. Because it's not like a big, long thing that you can get punished for. But only the EX version, and only from your kick-based normal attacks. Why? Why is it so specific? It does technically open up new combo routes for him. Namely in, like, the corner, for instance, where you can do a combo into, it's like you do like a short little, you do like medium punch into EX Sonic Boom, and in the corner it leaves you close enough to do a standing light kick, which you can then go into EX Sonic Scythe, and it does pretty good damage for 2 bars in the corner. It's extremely specific. And actually, I was like taking a walk, And I was like, well, hang on. So one buff or one cool thing about V-Skill 2 is that because it does an extra hit of damage, your opponent gets launched during like the heavy version, right? And because it does an extra hit, they get launched a little higher, which gives you enough time to land, recover, and then you can, as they're falling, you can do the medium version of Sonic Scythe, and you can cancel that into your super. So you have a cool little super confirm where you get a little extra damage. So like, can you do that out of EX? Can I, if I like have the buffed version of EX Sonic Scythe, and then I do that combo that I just described, can you go into it? And I was literally on a walk thinking about this. As I come back home, I boot up the training mode, and I test it out, and no, you can't do it. There's too much recovery on the EX version. You're not allowed to. And I was like, please just something. So I was looking. I was like, okay, maybe someone else has figured something else out. So I go look up, and I go look up on YouTube, just Nash combos for the new patch, and I find this guy, a French player, whose name escapes me, and he put together a 30-minute combo video, the craziest combo video I've ever seen, of every single new route that's available for Nash, and like, it's the craziest combo video I've ever seen. It's just a 30-minute demonstration of different routes, like everything that's possible with the new patch, and you're like, that sounds crazy, and then you watch it, and most of them are just like slight alterations on basically the same combos. It's not like the craziest thing. Like, it's neat that it's possible, but there's like nothing that feels super new or cool. It's just, you can do the same thing, but it looks different. Maybe it does a little more damage, or a little less sometimes, depending on scaling and all that. So like, I watched this and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, wow, this guy, he did this like day or two after the patch dropped, and I was like, man, this guy must be a huge Nash main. And then I go down to the comments, people are asking him the questions, and he's just responding, and he goes, yeah, you should just play another character. The guy who put together a 30-minute combo video on this character said, yeah, you should just not play this character. And I was just I was down in the dumps, and I was like, man, we are not eating good. Because I saw stuff that like Oro got, I saw stuff that other characters got, and I was like, man, if only. And so I, in a moment of weakness, I checked out some other characters. I checked out Sagat, I checked out Sakura, and I like them. I like those characters. I just have a personal disdain for confirming lights into DPs. So they just, I could, maybe if I really wanted to, but then I looked at Seth, and I tried Seth out, and it was a mind-blowing experience. It was like one of those movies or something where like a normal, like common person, like switches places with like a rich person, or like a prince or royalty or something like that. And like, I'm just doing stuff, and I'm like, that's special cancelable? That's special cancelable? I can do this into that into this? You can get an anti-air and then do the punch rush move? The cool, like, JoJo Aura move? That's so cool. What? Oh, you have this cool poke in low heavy kick? Oh, his sweep is actually like crouching heavy punch, but it's like he just like dives forward, and he like, you can like low profile some attacks with it. Whoa, well, this is so cool. And then I went and did his combo trials, and I was like, sometimes I like to do combo trials because I'm a masochist, and most of the ones in Street Fighter V are like not practical at all. and a lot of them just end up being kind of slogs. But I did Seth's, and I was like, whoa, these trials are really fun, and they're not like that difficult either. And I was like, whoa, this character's really cool. Is this what it's like to be bougie? Is this what it's like to be a 1%er? Now that I'm like switching places. Is this what it's like to play a top tier? I've never really played top tiers. Not out of like any kind of principle or like personal thing. It's just the characters that I gravitate towards have just ended up usually being like mid-tier, mid-low tier characters. I've never truly played a top tier character besides like Nago in Strive. He's kind of the one exception. And let me tell you, it feels good. It feels really good. And I'm not good at Seth yet. There's still stuff that I have to get used to. I went and pardon me. I went and looked up some like high level match footage, and I just kind of took some little mental notes on some stuff, like what do I see them doing a lot? Oh, they're using jab a lot. I wasn't even thinking of using jab. Oh, you can do jab into like a pardon me. Oh, you can do a jab into like a basic like B&B? Cool. Okay, good to know. The target combo, like the medium into heavy, looks really good. I see people use that a lot. This character is just really dope. I really like his design. I like his lore. I like his attitude, and that he's just nuts, and he's always yelling about how he's like the greatest. Because he's like deranged. He's a cool robot person. I don't know. I like the whole thing that they did with him in 5, where it's like, oh, he has a weird fractured identity, and they kind of play with this idea that like Seth has no true gender because he's just a robot. Like everyone says like he, but it's like a feminine looking robot body, but the voice sounds masculine. But it's a robot, so it's like, I don't know, it's fun. I like it. Got some good ass colors, some good ass greens. I'm always rocking the green colors. Oh, I forgot to mention Testament. Testament has, an amazing color, an amazing green. Oh my goodness, it's color number 2. I was like, let me check out Testament's colors before I hop into training mode, and then I literally scroll one over, and I'm like, this is my color. This is the color. This is the color. It's the white clothes with the mint green scythe and like brown skin and blonde hair. I'm a sucker for dark skin alt colors. I can't help it. Yeah, so I really like how the scythe is like the mint green, because it means that it looks like when you throw out the skull and like all the blood effects turn green too, because the scythe is made of blood and all the effects are blood. But so the color, if the scythe is a different color, then all the effects change to match it. So it looks like you're just throwing like mint chocolate chip ice cream at your enemies, and I love it. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing a little more Seth before SF6 comes out. I should maybe around. I put together like a roster for Street Fighter 6. I don't want to go into it right now, but I put a roster together. It might be a little out there, but maybe I'll talk about it. I'll bring it up when we're closer to the game's release, or when they start doing more press for it. Because I don't know. I think I'm right. Yeah. Anyway, I have nothing else I really wanted to talk about. There's a couple games I've been playing recently, but I don't want to go too much longer. My voice is a little tired, and I'm tired. So I'm gonna close it off here. If you've been listening this far, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Check out the main channel. I just got a new video out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will definitely get to them next time, but it should be phrased in the form of a question because I will not just read your thoughts out loud. Have a good one, guys. Happy April. Kat and I are seeing Sonic on Friday. Sonic 2. Sonic 2 and Knuckles. Not Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but Sonic 2. They just couldn't help themselves. So, we might... I don't know. A Sonic movie podcast? Yeah, she's finally free from her, the dance show she's been, working at. She's free from doing the laundry for all the dancers now. So, we're gonna be able to who knows? Maybe she'll be on the next episode. I haven't asked her, but if she's listening to this and she's gonna text me about the Gex game, maybe we can talk about. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway, bye.